Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nadeel ASFA bin NIZAM, and today, me and my amazing teammates, which is we have Azim Azmi, and then we have DANI FIRDAUS, and the last one we have AHMAD BAQIR. So for today, we'll be explaining about Linux operating system, security issues, and protection mechanism. Okay, so for today, we'll be explaining about three main security threats on what happens when Linux system get attacked and how we can protect them. Because Linux runs a huge part of the world, so these issues are more important than most people realize. Okay, so for today, this is what will be covered. So the first one, I'll be explaining why Linux security matters. Then we look at how Linux works, so the attacks make sense. And then after that, my teammates will explain three real security threats, their impact and how to prevent them from happening. And at the end, I'll also share how ChatGPT helped us with our research. Okay, so for the next slide, I'm asking you guys a question. Why this matters? So the reason for this is because Linux is literally everywhere. Because most websites you use every day run on Linux servers. For example, Android phones are based on Linux, and all supercomputers also run on Linux. Big cloud platforms like AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure also use Linux. That means hospitals, banks, and power systems depend on it. So if Linux security fails, it's not just a power problem. It can affect real people and real service. Alright, so for the next slide, I'll be explaining how Linux works. So Linux has two main parts. The first part is the kernel mode. This is the most powerful part of the system. It controls the hardware, files memory, and literally everything. And for the second part is the user mode. This is where normal programs run, like browsers and apps. These programs have limited access. So if a program wants to do something important, it must ask the kernel. This separation protects the system. Even if a program is malicious, it usually stays trapped inside a user mode, unless it finds a way to break out. After that, we'll be explaining about why we pick Linux as our group project operating system. So there are three main reasons on why we pick Linux as our group project OS system. First is an open source. So what is an open source? It means like we can see the actual security code and understand how it works. Second is the industry standard. Learning security of a Linux gives us a real useful skill for future job. And for the last one, the third one, Linux is actively attacked. That means there are real examples we can study, not just the theory.
Okay, so let's dive into the threat section. While Linux is renowned for its security, it is not invisible. We have identified three critical threats that modern Linux environments face: advanced malware, privilege escalation, and data breaches. Let's look at how these attacks bypass standard defenses. First, let's talk about malware. Gone are the days of simple viruses. Today, we face sophisticated rootkits and remote access trojans like hidden walls. Well, how do they hide? They operate in kernel mode. By infecting the system at this level, the malware can actually alter system calls or syscalls. This means when an admin runs commands like ls to list files or ps to see processes, the malware simply tells the OS to omit its name. It effectively blinds the system's internal defenses. A chilling real-world example is the Decade of the RATs or RATs campaign. State-sponsored hackers stayed undetected for over 10 years on Red Hat and Ubuntu servers by mimicking regular traffic and using undocumented rootkits. This proves that without proactive auditing, even a hardened Linux system can be compromised silently. Next is privilege escalation. In Linux, the ultimate goal for an attacker is UID 0, the root account. There are four primary methods used to climb that ladder: The first is kernel bugs, exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities to run code at the root level. The second one is the sudo_id exploits. Programs with set user ID bits can be tricked into spawning a root shell if they aren't configured correctly. The third one is sudo tricks. Weak rules in the sudoers file might allow a user to run powerful tools like Vim or find as root without a password. The last but not least is the cron jobs. Attackers hijack scheduled tasks that have poor file permissions but run with root authority. Well, whether it's vertical escalation from user to root or horizontal escalation between users, these methods prove that administrative misconfigurations are just as dangerous as software bugs. Finally, we look at data breaches and availability. Recent attacks like the Red Hat breach in October 2025 show the scale of the risk. 570 gigabytes of data stolen, including 28,000 repositories and sensitive custom reports. However, breaches aren't just about theft, they are also about resource exhaustion. Attackers use fork bombs to create infinite processes, consuming all available PIDs and memory until the system hits a kernel panic and freezes. We saw this on a global scale with the Mirai botnet, which turned thousands of Linux-based IoT devices into a digital army, flooding servers with millions of requests. This incident reminds us that Linux security is a constant battle between robust architecture and high-volume resource exhaustion.
So who actually suffer when this attack succeed? Pretty much everyone. Let's break it down by level, which is user, organization, and system. So for regular user, which is people like us, the damage is personal. First of all, it is financial hit come first. Your identity gets stolen. Attackers open credit card in your name, take out loans, rack up charges. Your credit score tanks. You spend months fighting with banks trying to prove it wasn't you. Then there is privacy. Your private photo, messages, document, or leak might be posted online, may be sold to data broker, and your social media gets hacked. Someone's tracking your location. And lastly, for the impact user is the physiological damage. You will feel violated. You lose trust in technology. The recovery process is exhausting and changing every password, monitoring your credit, dealing with your police report. It can take over a year to fully recover from identity theft. For organization, the impact is much bigger. They lost a lot of money through recovery costs, legal fees, and fines. Their reputation also takes a hit, which is customer lose trust and business can drop. And lastly, operation may stop completely while systems are taken offline, which means lost productivity and revenue. At the system level, attacks cause serious technical damage. System become unstable and crash. Performance drop because attackers steal system resources, and most importantly, system integrity is broken. Files are changed, backdoors are installed, and logs are erased. Once a system is compromised, it can't be fully trusted anymore. If these problems aren't addressed, the future impact is worse. Attackers can stay hidden in system for a long time. AI is making attacks faster and more effective. And since Linux runs critical infrastructure like hospital and power system, the damage won't just be digital. It can be affect real life. That's why protection is necessary.
Now that we understand the threats, how do you stop them? A robust security posture requires a multi-layered defenses, which are technical tools, user habits, and company policies. Moving deeper into the system, we implement encryption using LUKS, the Linux Unified Key Setup, which is the key standard for full disk encryption. We also use multi-factor authentication via pluggable authentication modules, or PAM, to add a critical layer of identity verification. For modern environments, we use runtime monitoring by deploying eBPF-based agents. We can perform behavior analysis and anomaly detection. This allows us to spot unauthorized processes or container breakouts as they happen. Speaking of containers, container security is vital. We must scan images for vulnerabilities and ensure strict isolation to prevent a single compromised container from affecting the entire host. Lastly, the human element is often the weakest link. We advocate for 3 simple user best practices. First is passwords. Well, user needs to use 12 or more characters in a password manager and never use passwords across different sites. Next, the second one is phishing awareness. Always check the sender, hover over links before clicking, and report anything suspicious if you found any. And the last is the 3-2-1 backup rule. Keep 3 copies of your data on 2 different media types with 1 copy stored off-site. This is the gold standard for data redundancy. Well, technology alone isn't enough. We need strong company policies. Security policies. Every organization needs written guidelines, a clear incident response plan, and regular staff training. Security audits. We don't just set and forget. We perform quarterly assessments, penetration testing, and compliance checks to find holes before hackers do. And last, disaster recovery. Finally, if the worst happens, we need a business continuity plan. This means regularly testing your backups and having a clear communication protocol so the team knows exactly how to respond during a crisis.
Thanks, BAQIR, for your great explanation before. And now, we are moving to our next topic, how we use AI. Before we continue, quick honesty check. We didn't just rely on textbook, but we used our secret weapon, which is ChatGPT. We use ChatGPT as a research tool, and honestly, it changed how we learn. We use it for 3 things. First, to break down complex topics. Second, to analyze real attacks. And third, and to compare security tools like SE Linux and AHMAD. It made our research way faster, but more importantly, it helped us to think better, not just search faster. And now, let me show you something interesting. If I ask, tell me about Linux security, the answer is okay, very general. But if I ask, explain how kernel rootkits bypass monitoring tools like PS and Netstat through system call interception, the answer actually teach you something. Same idea here, how to protect Linux. The answer is too broad, but if I ask compare SE Linux versus AHMAD, use cases, performance, impact, and enterprise configuration complexity, the answer is much better. So, the simple rule here is better question, better answer. Here's the bigger picture. Linux run most of the internet, so security really matters. The main threats are malware, privilege escalation, and data breaches. These are happening right now. Security isn't one tool or one setting. It's a layer. Technology, people, and policies. And security never ends. You update, monitor, and improve continuously. AI helps us learn faster, but only if we use it responsibly. To wrap up, Linux security needs constant attention. It supports systems we depend on every day, banks, hospitals, and the internet itself. We look at the real threats, real impacts, and real solutions, and showed how AI helps us learn smarter. Attackers to evolve, so our defense has to evolve too. And that's all from us. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.